This is the video help for the Travel Expense Pro. This is a brand new application, and we're going to be running it on the iPad 2 simulation. And for that reason, you're going to see a little bit of difference in the text quality because it's reduced on the screen. I'm running this on the desktop so that I can record it. Okay, let's start the tour by going through the navigation menu. You see we're pointing over here to start the navigation. This is a list of all the different screens that are in the application. You'll see for all the main screens, there's also a list view. And a list view is the same fields, only it lists all the records, where this is a one record. And you'll see one record, list view, one record, list view, and so forth as it goes down through the different screens. You'll see that we're covering things like the travel schedule, airport travel, ground travel, hotel reservations, business expenses, other business expenses or other expenses, period. And the last is a category list view where we're doing expense categories, and this is where you edit those categories. So let's start at the top, and we're going to go through the travel schedule. What this is the application you saw had a lot of screens, and what I've done is I've consolidated almost all the screens on the first screen, meaning that the information that you're providing is going to be on the main screen, and then there'll be subscreens and list views, but those are selected for the list views, and all the other screens will be on here where you make your input. Let's cover the navigation and everything that's going on in this screen. We'll start at the top left and go down. This is the travel schedule, and the travel schedule is used to build one new record for each travel itinerary. So as you go through the different screens and put a new record in, for example, if I come over to the Do Action button and I say New Record, so this will create a new record. For your simulation purposes, I'm not going to be adding any data. I'm just going to point out how everything functions. Let's talk about this application menu right here. It's called Perform Actions. What it does is, not on all screens do you do new records. So what's going to happen, you won't see this. It'll be blank up in this top spot. You'll see an empty space. Only the screens that can have new records created will have the new record button. So you do not want to try to use any of the other menus like down at the bottom where you could add on the iPad or iPhone, add a new record. Do not do that. The next thing is what we can do is called Start a Find and then Perform a Find. Let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. First of all, before I do that, notice the information that's in the screen prior to when you use it. Any information that's in fields above, up here in this area, you can do a find in those. You cannot do finds in portals or in popover menu screens over here. They're going to pop up so you can actually add data in those. So you're really working with the record information at the top of the screen. So let's go ahead and start a find. You'll notice that all the screen fields show a magnifying glass. And what that's indicating is you can make data entry in those. But like I stated, you cannot do that in portal records or, in this case, in a popover record. You can see that they're all have the access, but they will not do a find in a multi-row record. So let's go over, and first thing we can do is we can click into any field, and in this case you'll notice that I can put in a 1 to put in the ID record for record number 1, or I can pick something else. I can pick the traveler's name and type it in. In this case I could type that, but it would not work and it would give me an error. And let's just do that. I'm going to put in, now in this case it may or may not be an error, because what happens is record number 1 may be this person, but maybe not. Now you notice I did not type in the full name. I only typed in the partial name. So let's go ahead and do a find. I'll say Perform Find, and as it flips over it'll say I had one record selected, and actually it was the correct record. If I did not have the correct record, it would come back with a dialog saying modify this find or cancel. And in that case I would have had to cancel. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the information. And here we have travel date, return date, travel title, travel purpose, travel notes. Very straightforward stuff. What we're going to do here is we're going to add data. If we clicked in and you can see that this would add data. It would give you popovers for or pop-ups for the date, and you can of course scroll these to figure out what date you want to put in and then allow it to go in. If I click off of it, it takes it out. Now if I'm going to put in the name, and this is the only place it's been entered or will be entered is in this area, I would go ahead and put in the traveler's name, and the traveler's name is the person that is the person traveling on this itinerary. The next thing you're going to see is over on this side, we have a set of different pop-ups or popovers as they're called. And over here at the top, I have a $sign, and that might bring some interest in. This is an international application, so what we can do is we can click on this, wait a second, you'll see that I have many of the dollar symbols or money symbols for all over the world. You can scroll through them. There's a number of them in there. I think there's 50 some different money symbols. If I picked one, for example, if I picked the pound, you'll notice it'll change up here, and then when I click off, all the money symbols for all the money fields are now £2 instead of the $sign. So as we go through the different records and I pop up, say like I go down to business expense, you'll notice that it did a global update, and now these are also pound signs over here on this record. Now these rows are columns actually, so if you're looking at these columns, this is the cost and this is the actual numeric number for that cost, and the same thing over here for expense subtotal. Let's go ahead and look at the portals. Now portals are scrolling records, and you can actually grab onto them. If you're on the iPad, you'll be able to tap and scroll with your finger. They will not scroll until you go off the record area and create another new record. As you create any field over here on this side, it's going to add a new record. So if I clicked in this record, the first thing it's going to do is going to ask me to put something in a field, and it's going to create another new record below that once I enter data in that field. So there's a lot of popovers for access to speed up your input on your records. Now you can see in here there's a number of fields, and this is all about the travel schedule, so you can set up your itinerary, and in the itinerary you're going to actually show where you're going to be going, and you're going to go for a departure going into a time in a meeting, so you're actually setting up a schedule of the things that you're doing, and you're describing the trip purpose, the event notes, and the address, and any meeting, who you're meeting with, and you can put that in there and scroll down and see the different people you're going to be meeting with. Let's take a look at this while we're in here. This little field area down at the bottom will pop up on the screen. This allows you to add and subtract a record. Do not do that. This one here, if you click on it, allows you to do bold, italic, and underline if you want to do that. This one will pop the screen area down here down. As you're actually entering data in here, it's going to pop up and give you options to click in. You have a next and previous, so you can go back between the fields. And the last thing we're looking at here is if I look on this, it allows me to show all records, omit some, or omit a record range. And then it shows me how many records are in selection. Right now, I did a find, so there's only one record, and actually there are two in the system. So you can see there's a total of 2 records. If I click on this, I can go backwards and go to a different record. You can also use the pop-up menu, and you can say all these same things. For example, like show all records. If I did a find, if I click it, it's going to bring back all the records after I did the find instead of the initial one that I was looking at. I can omit this record. By clicking omit, it'll go away, and you'll see that now I got a blank. What I would have to do is navigate back to the main screen by doing a prior or whatever. So let's go back and say prior record. In this case, let's go to first record. Well, I guess I got to show all, don't I? Okay. Now, when you do an omit, you have to have more than one record in selection, and that's a good indicator of what happened to me right there. You can't just have one record omit them because you're not going to leave anything left to be able to do. That's called the records in selection. Records in selection is the count of how many records are currently being shown. So for example, if I clicked in this field right here and I click down, you can see now there are 1 of 2 records. And if I click one way or the other, or on the arrows, it's going to take me to one of the records. Since there's 0 omitted this time, I could go ahead and omit a record or show the omitteds and reverse the direction that I went. Say for example, I had 10 records in and I omitted 3 of them, then the balance of them would be up here, and I could show only the omitted by showing, say, show omitted. Okay, If you need any more help, if I'm going too fast, you can always go to the main developer site and chat online and ask for help if you need it. Okay, so let's continue. The portal button here takes you to the individual records for this individual portal record. A portal is actually one record for each one of these screens. So these are the subscreens. Let's go to one of the subscreens and I'll show you. This is the same data in a larger view for that screen we were just looking at. So if you wanted to go see, say for example, who was in the meeting and who was listed, it'd be a lot easier to see it in the portal than it is on the smaller record in the other screen. Now, in order to get back, I just navigate and go back, and I'm back on the main screen. Now, each one of the records that I'm going to be showing you here also have a portal. So let's go ahead and look at the air travel portal. The air travel portal is one you used where you're going to plan your air travel, and you're going to put the flight date, the flight time, the airport it's leaving from, the airline, the seat that you're actually, or the gate, and the seat that you're assigned to, and the arrival time when it's going to get to the next airport. You can put notes in here that are related to anything about the flight, and you can create as many flights as you want to for your itinerary that you're flying on to keep track of them. How many times have you ever flown and found out you got to the airport and you don't remember the gate, the airline, or something happened? Well, that's the reason for having this information. Let's go ahead and click on the portal, and you'll see that it's all in a lot bigger scale, so it's easier to see. And let's navigate back. Now let's go to the next one, which is ground travel. Same situation. I get to the airport, maybe I have a shuttle, or maybe I'm taking a cab, or maybe I'm going to rent a car. So if I'm going to do that, I kind of indicate what I'm doing. In this case, I used an airport shuttle. It cost me $50, and I tipped the person $5 for carrying bags or helping me to get them to the check-in. This is the ground travel, the time, where I started and the destination I was going to. So I'm going to the LA airport. Okay, so this is from my original thing, maybe the office or wherever I'm going. And you can list all your different ground travels in here, so when you roll up your information for your expense report, you have all that information. Here's the hotel reservation, same situation. You've got a reservation date, time for arrival, the reservation number, the hotel, the actual location of the hotel. I can scroll down, you can see there's the location. Click out of there so I can read it a little easier. The number of nights, 3 nights, starting on the 28th is the depart date at depart time of 9 a.m. That's when I'm going to be leaving. So I have that. Let's go to the next one, which is business expense. Now these next two will go into a little bit more depth in basically what we're doing. This is the expense date. What was the expense category? Now this is a drop down, so I'm going to be waiting for it. You can actually edit this drop down and add as many different things as you need to. And in this case, this is because the scrollers on the iPads and phones do not allow you to edit this field. Actually, if I click in here again, it'll only allow me to copy and paste, delete, define, share, paste only, and style. It doesn't allow me to actually edit this information. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go, if I need to, edit those fields for drop downs, which there are one in the business expense and one in the other expense. Now, let's talk a little bit about business expense. Business expenses are anything you need to get reimbursed for when you go back to your office, and you would have the report for this and the total amount for this itinerary trip, and you can turn in that information using the information that's put in here. Now, other expenses, there's 2 possibilities here. These are going to be things that you want to track that you spent money on that you may not get reimbursed for, or other expenses that you can write off at the end of the year as a personal expense that the company doesn't cover. So you would probably do that, for example, like a business lunch where it's for your own lunch, but you're out on business and the company's not going to pay you for that. Maybe they don't cover it. So you could put it in other expense. And that would be like, for example, if I click over here, same situation, went to a show and used a cab, so I paid for the cab. Now, this is a personal expense where I wanted to get entertained at night and I went to a movie, and that way I had to take a cab. It may not be a write-off, but it also is an expense I may be able to take off at the end of the year on my own personal income tax write-off. So this is also a drop down in here like we showed in the last one, where you can pick any one of the items in this list and use it. In this case, I use taxi fare. Now, like I said, you can add as many of these things as you want to in here. And to get this away, if you don't use it, like canceling, just click over here and it goes away. And that's true of all of these buttons and popovers. If you want to cut them off the screen, you can click in a gray area or click back on its own button. If you click on a button and then click again, it goes away. If you click on a button and then click on another button, it's going to automatically pick up that particular item and bring it up. In this case, I want to go to the portal for the expenses, and you can see in the expenses that we have all the items in here, and we go ahead and have the information that you can read and so forth in here. But what I want to do is I want to go to the list view for expenses. So I'm going to go down here to business expenses list view, and you'll see in here I did my global change for all of my pound signs where they were dollars. So anybody in the world can change to their own country the dollar signs or symbols. You can see in here now that I have a row of information for one record, another, and another row. Let's say, for example, I went on a trip, and I know the date of my trip, and I know that I went on the trip, so I want to see everything that occurred on that trip. Well, at the bottom of the screen, notice that there's a summary total for the expenses for all trips right now, and it's $469.90. Now, if I want to just see my trip, what I can do is put in the date or date range, and we're going to show you how to do a date range a little bit later here, but I want to just have my records I'm going after. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say find, start a find, and I'm going to put in my first name. Now you'll notice I do not have to put in even the whole name. I can just partially spell it, and then I can say go ahead and find it, and there I am. So I have two records in here, one's for the 25th, one's for the 26th. Now, this is the same itinerary, so it's in the same date span. This is going to be for the 25th through the 28th. Now, you can see if you do a find and you find the information for meals and stuff like that, and you see that now I've got a flight, and there's $421 and $27.90, and I got $448.90 is my summary. Now, you can see how you can use this listing, and you can print this. So, for example, if I came over here and I said print it, now I have a choice to print it. I can print a range of records, the number of pages I want, the page range for all pages, the page sizes. In order to do that, I can click over here and change the different size of the pages. I can also do the orientation, either portrait or landscape. I can scale it if I have the ability on this printer to scale it, and this one does. I can do a maximum DPI, and I can improve that because I got a lot of options here. And that's just so depending on the printer and the printer quality. And then I have the ability to send a PDF, for example. I can say send it just, or create one just so I can view it. I can say send it in an email or save one to my hard drive. Or in this case, if I'm on an iPad, it would save it to the iPad, probably in the images or photos area on your iPad. So now we see all this information and everything we've done here. Let's go ahead and cancel this. Say I wanted to export the records for some reason. Maybe I'm going to use this as an itinerary where I want to send it to an Excel form or something like that. What I can do now is I can say export. I can go in here and I can say travel expense pros, yes. And I can say go ahead and that's what I want. And I can say how do I want it? I want it tabbed eliminated. I want to select the fields I want to send, and you can pick on any field by checking or unchecking this. So for example, on notes, I may not want that, or maybe I don't want something else, but this is what is going to be exported if I want to do that. Going back to done, I can say use a layout form the way the actual layout was set up. In this case, right to left. I can go ahead and click this and it would do that. I could send it in an email or I can save it to a drive. In this case, if I save it to the drive, I'd probably end up by having to name it. So I'm going to go ahead and say click it, and then it's going to go ahead and send it to the drive. In this case, it'll send it over to your portal for your photos and images. Okay, so now that we've done that and we've done the export, we also want to navigate to the other expense portal. Now in this portal, same situation as the last one. We're really looking at managing information, and in this case you can also say, okay, well I now need to do the other portal list view. Same situation as the last one. we can export, we can print it, and all that kind of stuff. Now it's only going to print to right here, so when you do the actual print, anything over in this side is not going to print. So this is a regular standard page. That's why it's shaped the way it is, with this in the middle of the page. Now the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and talk about, we can go to the last record, next record, and so forth. But I wanted to show you here the help video you're actually viewing you can get to by clicking here. And this is the developer's website, where if you click on this, it will take you to that website where you can ask questions and get answers to any questions that you have on this application. Now this application has free technical support. I prefer if you need to actually work on the application on a screen so we can see what you're doing, or I can show you my screen. Then you use Skype, and I have Skype addresses in my email so that you can go ahead and get on Skype. Skype allows us to chat at the same time. I can show you the screen from my computer, or if you're not on an iPad and you're on a desktop, then you can show me your screen. So that's a pretty nice thing to know, and support, like I said, is free, so don't hesitate to ask questions. If you have any questions on getting a demonstration of this application, if you looked at the actual information online on YouTube, then you can go ahead and contact me at vclement@gmail.com. Thank you for taking this video.